everyone, and welcome back. We have the same setup, so Sean is on the phone.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And so I guess we're just going to continue a little bit of where we left off, which I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, as usual, we go off on different directions. So, what's the latest with you?
Um, I've been kind of off work, so I helped my girlfriend finish up her work season, and now I've been off for probably a week and a half, probably knocking on a week and a half ish. Um, and I'm just starting to go a little bit stir crazy. I'm not gonna lie. So the good thing is a couple days ago I got all signed up for school. I got a textbook in the mail. My classes start in 2 weeks, so that's super exciting. I've also been kind of skimming through my e-textbook that I was able to download and kind of just getting a little head start on some of that stuff. So that's really exciting to kind of have that finally moving forward. And I'm excited for classes to start because it gives me I do really well with a goal-oriented purpose every day. And if I'm waking up with nothing to do, I can get a little lazy and a little in my head. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean, the last week and a half I've been running 5 to 10K a day with the dogs just to get out and get busy and active because I'm used to walking 20 kilometers a day for my old job. So the inactivity over the last week has been hitting me a little hard. So definitely started running again. That's really good. Anything going on with you?
Well, same old, same old. Busy with I'm getting a lot more clients now, and I guess as we were talking a little bit earlier before we jumped on, I think it's a lot it's paralleled with this daylight savings time, and that it's only 6:56 and it's pitch black outside. So I think it's affecting a lot of people, including myself. I find it if I find that at 4 o'clock I don't really know my bearings because it's starting to get dark.
Yeah, no, I've had the exact same thing. I mean, my girlfriend and I were on the couch the other day, and we both looked at each other and we're like, "Are you ready for bed?" And we're like, "Yep." And then we checked the time; it was 7:15. She's like,
Okay,
"Oh,
old
okay."
people.
But it just messes with you, right? You're it's been dark at that point for an hour and a half, 2 hours, or whatever. So your brain's telling you, "Oh, it's time to go to sleep." But yeah, I get hit hard with it every year. I start to get a little bit of seasonal depression, and for me, being active and feeling like I've accomplished stuff throughout the day really helps. Is there any other little tricks that you have up your sleeve to help people that are going through this right now?
Well, I always tell people, and I've been taking it for years. I know they're recently speaking about, especially through COVID, but I have to take vitamin D supplements. I have to, and I've been taking them for years. So, I suggest people double up on vitamin D. I do find it helps a little bit more. I've had, again, because I do suffer from it. I have one of those day lamps, so that is on in my room. As soon as it gets dark, I put that on because it simulates sort of the daylight.
Yeah, I got you.
And I find it does help a little bit.
I know.
And as you said, I have to you could get away with kind of missing a little bit of exercise, but I've jumped back on my Peloton and I'm doing that daily, just because I'm so afraid of falling into that trap.
Yeah, it's a big one for me. It's one that kind of grabs me every year. So just actively being aware of it. I know vitamin D. My girlfriend swears by it. We take it every day, even without this time of year.
Yeah,
it's
me
just
too.
It's
Yeah,
just
me too.
she calls them her happy pills.
Yeah,
So
it's so true.
Yeah, she actively notices if she misses a day. So that's a really good healthy alternative just to kind of keep the vitamins up and keep yourself going. And for me, yeah, it's just staying busy and feeling accomplished and not allowing myself to kind of fall into that kind of lethargic, low energy kind of state where nothing's getting accomplished, because that's the beginning of a spiral for me. So to be able to acknowledge that and know the kind of warning signs for it kind of helps me navigate it a little bit better.
But what you're gonna find too, like, this also saves me, and I've been saved obviously for a long time every year, is when you're doing your schoolwork and you're distracted by that, so it doesn't bother you as much because you kind of appreciate that quiet time to get it done, right? Like you're not distracted by, oh, it's such a nice day. Like I find it very hard to do schoolwork in the summer or anytime it's nice out because I just want to be outside.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I can
it
definitely see that.
this helps you hunker down and like get it done because what else are you going to be doing?
Yeah, and like I'm excited to get back into the workforce. Like I've had enough of a. I mean, I'm not really somebody that takes vacation. So like I went, I think 7 years in between vacations at one point in time while working. Um, so I went like 7 years, and then like I went like 3 or 4 years. Like I don't really take vacations very often. So for me to actually step away from work and decide to make a career change at, I'm almost 30 years old, and then actively decide to take some time off just to kind of decompress from the situation and actively be like, no, you know what? Let's take some time off. Let's sleep in. Let's get 8, 9 hours of sleep every day. Let's, a lot of stuff that I honestly haven't done in a decade plus easily. I mean, I'm used to running off of like 5.5, 6 hours of sleep. So
Which is horrible.
yeah, not the best. I'm also used to driving 3 to 4 hours a day on top of an 8 hour workday. So I'm used to a very fast paced kind of active day, and I'm used to going to bed obliterated, completely exhausted. And one of the reasons I started running, not just because I was feeling myself slip into a little bit of a funk, but it was because I was having trouble sleeping. So I just wasn't, I guess I wasn't burning the same amount of calories, obviously. I wasn't nearly as active. I was getting more sleep. I was waking up a little bit later. Um, so, like, my clock just started kind of shifting. I was used to going to bed at 10 o'clock, and, like, next thing you know, I'm, like, not falling asleep until 11. I'm not falling asleep until, midnight, and I'm getting up at 7:30, 8 o'clock every day, feeling incredibly well rested, but it was just I'm just kind of like, oh, this is different. I'm used to literally hitting the pillow and being unconscious. Um, so again, one of the reasons why I started running again, because I'm like, I need to start burning some energy here.
Well, that's great. Well, I think it's good too because you were doing that kind of like daily, I don't know, 6 7 months ago, and so it's kind of timely because it was sort of around this well, like another month or so, but it was around this time that you started it.
Yeah, I started. I think last year I started running like end of December ish,
Yeah.
so like very close to this time of year. And I did that for like 2 months or so. I think, yeah, about 2 months. And I felt great, and then I just kind of fell out of it. But um, yeah, I go through waves with my exercise. But I think now that I'm going to be doing potentially a significantly less physical job, I think exercise is going to become a very important element in my life. Um, I just do better mentally after a workout or after a really hard physical day at work. Like I enjoy that. Like it that exertion just kind of it's good for me, and I know that. So if I'm not necessarily going to be able to get it at work, um, I'm definitely going to be working out a lot more in my personal life, which is probably a pretty good thing. So
Okay, so I forgot that I did have something that um, we were talking about like tools and resources, and you know, when you had said before we hopped on too that you sort of had a huge anxiety attack recently, or what?
Yeah. Actually, today, actually, I've been very anxious all day today.
And do you know where it's coming from, or it just came on, or like do you know what
Um,
triggered it?
yeah, I think for me, I think it was a little bit of financial stress. I'm quite hard on myself about finances. A little bit of work stress. Starting something completely new. But also, I think it was from a lack of progression forward. I think I just stayed stationary a little bit too long, um, which is it's a hard thing to say because I need to learn how to step back. I need to learn how to be able to be quiet in one place without um, kind of being too hard on myself. But at the same time, I think just with some of the added stresses and me just having a little bit too much time, free time to kind of be in my own head, so to speak, I kind of started getting myself worked up on stuff that was not necessarily worthy of being worked up on. Um, so I got out of the house, I took the dogs for a run, um, and then I came home and I had a super hot shower, just like burnt it all away, and that really kind of helped reset everything for me and put everything back into perspective. And I'm hoping moving forward with school and stuff like that, just being a little bit more busy, just being a little bit more accomplished throughout the day, um, will help me not be so negative and hard on myself.
I found this is a resource that I use, and it talks about, you know how like your left brain and right brain, they function, they have two distinct functions. And so what you're sort of kind of speaking about just now, it was like the fact that our left brain has automatic negative thoughts, and our brain is hardwired for patterns. So being aware that maybe your brain is overusing one or more of these, and I'm going to list some, and then you could interject if this sounds familiar. So the first one is called, they say, mind reading. So you assume that you know what people think, and it's always negative. So like he thinks I'm not able to do it. So your left brain is like always trying to mind read, right?
I've definitely had that in the past. It's not something that's incredibly persistent, but I have 100% experienced that.
Number two is fortune telling. So you predict the future negatively, like I'm doomed. It's not going to turn out well.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about in the
Yeah.
past, and definitely something that I do. I'm a very much like worst case scenario thinker, and it leaves me in this perpetual state of negativity. And we've discussed many times that those situations very, very rarely, if ever, come into fruition. So,
And
yes.
and then the third one is catastrophic. Oh my god, catastrophizing. Oh my god, why can't I pronounce that word? So you assume the worst, like I'm gonna die, like you know. So it's a catastrophe. Everything's like the worst case scenario, right?
Yep, yep. So that kind of plays in a little bit with the last one. So definitely, my left brain can definitely take the wheel sometimes.
Catastrophizing. Oh my god, I had to sound that out like I was in grade 3.
That's right. Sometimes when you just get stuck on it, you just get stuck on it. you just you just can't. I know. I know
Where am
somebody
I
that
supposed to emphasize
I
and
know somebody
enunciate?
that for the life of them could not say auxiliary. Like auxiliary was the kryptonite, and then it got to the point where they messed it up so many times that like I couldn't say it anymore because I'm like I don't even remember how this is actually supposed to sound.
Well, even oh my god, I can't even say it. Methodological. Like that's another one that I'm always like, oh my god, why do I have to sound it out like I'm, I,
No, I get you. I feel you. I've been there.
Number 4 is, they said, negative labeling or filtering. So you perceive only the negative in yourself and others. So no one likes me, or I'm a bad person. And I see this a lot. So if you're aware of these, like these are automatic left brain negative thoughts. or you discount positives, right? So like if something was positive, you dismiss it. So you, oh, that was nothing, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And then it says overgeneralizing. So after a setback, you perceive that never will you do well. It's a form of giving up on yourself. So like I'll never be able to do it.
Yes.
And I think you
So,
did that when like you were just debating on leaving.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I still am battling with that on a regular basis. I mean, I'm battling arguably with the collective on all those. Like,
And even
um,
this like the all or nothing thinking. So after a setback, you perceive that nothing will work out for you.
oh yeah, and my girlfriend will be the first one to tell you that like my line of thought and how I go about a lot of things is all or nothing. I'm like I'm 100% in, or like I just couldn't care less. Um, so the interesting part is that like I'm still dealing with a lot of those. Obviously, I'm just a lot better at just being able to step back and be like, okay, like you're being overly negative about a situation. You're being, overly critical on yourself. Like, step back, have a conversation, and like be able to process it a little bit better.
Well,
I'm
here's
assuming this is all
the
textbook CBT.
yeah, but it's automatic negative. Like so, like your left brain is wired to do this. So that's why you should be aware of if your brain is overusing it. Because I guess your left brain, because the right side is creative, right? And the left
Okay.
brain, I think, is reasoning. So like we, and again, I think it all goes back to again. We always say it goes back to like your childhood between your formative years of 4 and 11, what trauma you went through, how and
Yep.
what's playing out now in how you were raised. And we both know, like, as we say, we're not blaming our parents, but you have to be aware of, you know, of the things that you were conditioned and things that you were told and things that are probably in your brain, that in your subconscious, that you're not aware of, but it comes out in how you perceive the world. So like all of these things, so like that says should, like that says shoulds, you negate yourself. So like I should have done better, right? And then personalizing, so after a setback you negate yourself, I'm a failure. Blaming, you perceive the other person as a source of your negative feelings, so you deny complete responsibility. And you were very intuitive when you said that you were blaming sort of your dad for how you were feeling at work, and then realizing, no, this is all to do with me and how I'm feeling.
Oh yeah, like I was not impressed with my dad at all, and then I realized that like no, I was just being like it was me. Like I was the one being toxic and negative because I was just so unhappy there.
This is another one. Like there's two that I want to speak about, but like the comparison. So you always perceive others as much better off than you are, and so it reinforces inferiority. And this is a big one because I hear it a lot. This past regret. So you dwell on the past in a negative light, like you're stuck in the past. And again, the what if. And so like you perceive and dwell on the present in a negative light. What if I can't, like, and you kind of caught yourself with, what's your anxiety? My finances. But you know what, that's sort of like a negative, automatic negative thought.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like you're reading out those lists, and over the last week or two, I mean, arguably over my adult life, I can check mark every single thing you just read
But
off.
I think a lot of people can. And the last one is emotional reasoning. So your negative feelings determine your perception, and it's a form of tunnel vision. So like, like once you're in that negative, remember we were talking about that earlier too. Once you're negative, everything is, it's, this sucks, that sucks. Nothing is good.
Oh yeah, I lived in that state for a very long time.
A lot of
Once
people,
you're
a lot of people do.
yeah, once you're into that negative, like, and I mean like 100% negative state of mind, it's very, very, very difficult to see positivity anywhere. Like everything you do is just a struggle.
Well, now the new thing too, and I think people have to be aware. So like, yeah, these are automatic negative thoughts, but remember, you're projecting them in other ways. Like, just because you might not relate specifically with any of these, or maybe you relate, or you're like you and you're self-aware and you're like, I can tick off every single one of those, and yes, I've done those. But some people, admitting is the first step, but they don't understand sometimes you're projecting that with your social media. Like, you're doing all of this stuff with, like, the inferiority. So it's that comparison, right? Like, oh, if I show you this is what I'm doing in my life, look how great I am, look how great I'm doing, right? But it's because you're comparing. You're trying.
Yeah.
What are you comparing yourself to? Compared to what? And I just find a lot of people are looking for validation externally and not internally.
I would agree with that 100%. And, a lot of this, we can go back to, some fundamental things that happened to you when, in your childhood, from the ages, your entire childhood, let's say 4 to 11. And, this is not, like, I'm the first one to say, like, I do not take a victim stance
Me
on that.
neither.
I don't take,
Yeah.
like, and I don't want anybody to kind of think that way. Like, you're not a victim. Like, I look at it as, like, my parents 100% loved me the best way they knew how.
Yeah.
Period. And you can't ask for any more than that. They gave me everything they possibly could. And, this goes back to, I think we've mentioned it before on the podcast, but, at one point in time, my dad told me, like, your entire generation's in therapy. Like, what the hell? And I told him, like, man, we're just
because you didn't go.
yeah, like, people in therapy are in therapy because somebody in their life didn't go to therapy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're just trying to actively correct or learn so that we don't have to pass down the same, insecurities or issues or traumas that were passed down to us subconsciously. So that's all it really is,
Well,
right? And to get to
find-
know yourself and to grow as a human being.
And especially, like, part of evolving, as you just said, grow is the operative word, but part of all of that is sometimes unlearning what you were taught, that it's no longer serving you, and that this doesn't sit right, this doesn't feel right. And again, it's not a pointing your finger situation. You're not saying, oh, it's because of you. You're not blaming others, as that was on the list too. You're acknowledging that, hey, you know what, this doesn't sit right with me, and I want to make sure that I don't, like, that they talk about generational curses, but that's part of it. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting, right?
Oh, exactly. It's, you need to be able to be accountable for yourself and understand that if something is not helping you progress in the way you want to progress, it's time to do something about it. And, when you're talking about the left side of the brain and the negative thoughts that, are just already kind of programmed in.
Because, like, yeah, social conditioning, like, that didn't just come from, we're a clean slate, obviously, when we enter this world. So that negative thought pattern had to be developed from something.
Oh, absolutely. So, like, everybody always, I've had this conversation with a couple of people, and it's pretty relevant, but, they always say, like, kids are fearless.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's because as you get older, you learn fear, right? So if you take a 3-year-old, they're going to be relatively fearless because they haven't really experienced consequences yet, to a certain degree. So once you start, if they run full tilt, they fall and they trip, now they go, oh, that hurts. Now they might be a little bit scared of an injury or whatever it may be. But, like, fear is something that is taught and learned. So it's a really scary idea because that goes along with every other emotion as well. Like, everybody's kind of a blank slate at the beginning, and, you could have done exceptionally well or studied your butt off on a science test, came home, showed your parents, and they might have been less than thrilled, and that could have been absolutely devastating to you. They didn't mean to offend you. They didn't mean to make you feel inferior in any way. But on subconscious level, this is something that could be bothering you years down the road.
Well, because
And it could
yeah,
just be the cornerstone of, the building blocks of something that's much, much larger. Um, so I think the big thing is just being able to be accountable for like your own self and understanding that, hey, I don't like where I'm heading. I'm going to actively work on some of this stuff. And, rewire is how I like to refer to it. Like the idea of rewiring my brain to find positive pathways through life instead of negative pathways. And once you're able to start doing that, life really starts to open up on you, and it becomes significantly less difficult. You start to realize that, your own insecurities, your fears, your, negative attachments mentally are what are really holding you back in life.
yeah, like this is all like it's not real. It's all your thoughts, right? Like if you can, we say that like all of those things are just thoughts. They're not there's no proof or evidence of any of that stuff. It's just
No.
it's just made up in your head and you're believing it. That's all.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like if it's your perception of yourself, then you're going to manifest that into reality. So, like, if you think that you're a horrible person, like, eventually you're probably going to become a horrible person.
Well, so, then, yeah, and it's a flip side because, like, the same way that you just said, if you were on you studied so hard for a science test and you came home and your parents weren't thrilled. The flip side of that is like the development of narcissism when your parents, no matter what you do, they put you on a pedestal, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So then remember there's two sides of a coin that
yep.
You can develop either an insecurity or an attachment or your trauma, like you suffered some trauma, and so it's going to play out in your relationships when you get older. And the same goes for the other side when you could do no wrong and your parents, no matter what you're the best, there's another dangerous side to that. So it's sort of like finding again that medium, and it's not an easy, as a parent, identifying all of that stuff. So like I understand so much more than I did, obviously, we'll even say 15-20 years ago, but it's like knowing that balance even for my son, and like being able to be like, okay, I don't want to be like you're the best, like you're the greatest, but I don't also want to like traumatize him, right?
and this comes back full circle to, as a parent, you do the best that you can do, and nobody's perfect. Everybody that enters adulthood is going to have some level of personal growth journey that they're either going to decide to take or ignore. That's their own choice. That's it.
Well, like, I used to say to him, like, because, like, again, as you know, like, Jalen is he's just a natural brain. Like, that's just, I can just tell, right? Like, that's not something, he doesn't really he never really, like, of course in university, yes, but, like, he didn't really, really have to try too hard.
Yes, yeah.
And so when he would bring home, and, like, as you said, like, say he would bring home an 80 in a subject, I wouldn't say, oh my God, where's the 20%, like my parents would. I said, is that the best you can do? Because if it's the best you can do, I'm happy with your mark. And he would say sometimes, no, it's not. And I said, well, then you answered your own question, Yep.
No, I agree completely.
So I just turn it around. Like, I don't want to say what's good or bad. Like, I'm not going to be the scale. He can be his own scale.
Well, I think there's a lot to say. Like, when you're able to hold yourself accountable, that's a skill that can really move you forward in a lot of areas in life, right? So may it be, for example, if you're overweight and you yourself want to get healthier, you have to hold yourself accountable to dietary restrictions or working out or whatever that may be. If you never learn that skill, that's going to be very difficult for you. If you're, you might be in Jalen's situation, a natural academic person he's already gifted enough that most schooling for him was probably on the easier side, becomes boring. He's not going to hold himself accountable to having to study because he knows that he could just wing it and probably do better than most.
That's why I had to put him in French immersion to challenge him, because he was becoming bored in school, and they wanted to put him in a gifted program. I'm like, no, that's not necessary.
Yeah.
And
but the French immersion thing's really interesting because you don't speak French, right?
No, so he's bilingual on his own.
But that's a great life skill. I mean, that's only going to serve him throughout his life, right? Like that's really cool.
Yeah, and he doesn't even, like, again, he's very, like, and maybe I'm the same way, so maybe he gets it from me. Like, he doesn't think that that's so great. Like, even being on the dean's list, he doesn't think that's so great. Like, he doesn't think that that's, like, a great thing.
Yeah, I guess he's looking at a large goal, and the small ones in between. He's just like, I'll be happy when I get to where I want to be.
Yeah, but that's good and bad. So it's good because you're like very goal directed, but you should celebrate the little things in between.
I agree. I mean, celebrating the little things is really, it's really good. Like, I personally made the mistake of like a massive goal that would take years to accomplish, and I got like 90% of the way there, and then stuff didn't work out.
Like, oh my god!
And then I got devastated.
I want to be, and I'm like, really?
Yeah, I was devastated, and then, but like I didn't celebrate anything in between because, like, to me, I was so tunnel visioned on that goal.
Well, another thing that I taught him was this life skill that I don't know. I'm not going to generalize because it's not that I have a parent group going in, so I know. But when he wanted something, so let's just say, when the Game Boy came out and he wanted or the Nintendo DS or whatever was the latest, I used to say, okay, go get me 3 quotes. Because you can't just ask for something and then not get the best deal.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
And then to this day, like, it's a learned thing. So he'll be like, okay, I looked at these 3 things and I think I'm gonna get it here because it's the cheapest, or the best deal.
Yeah, no, it's good.
And I think because you have to make these kids work for what, like, if you want it, you will do that. You will go do the research. I said, do the research. You have to teach, do the research. You have to sell me. You can't just come and say, oh, I just want this. Yeah, well, me too. I want that too. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, what's the, give your kids enough to do something, but not enough to do nothing?
Yeah, and then I would always make him put part of his money. Like, okay, I'll pay for 3/4 of it, but you're paying for 1/4 of it. So that
I remember.
So that you have value, right?
Yeah, well, that's a huge principle because my parents were very, blue collar family. They were very much, you need to understand the value of a dollar.
Exactly.
You need to understand how far that gets you in life. And I started working a part-time job when I was like 12 or 13. I was stocking shelves at a grocery store because, like, I wanted my own stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted, I didn't want to have to go to my parents and be like, hey, I was looking at this new skateboard and I really want it. Do you think you could buy it? I was like, no, I'm going to go get this myself.
Well, I wasn't allowed to work during school. I was literally banned from working because my dad was like,
really?
Yeah, because he was like, I know that trick, so
you're
not going to come to me. I failed because I was working.
I got you. I just did it. Yeah, I did it because I wanted some financial freedom into my, teenage years. But I remember even before that, my dad would be, my younger brother and I skateboarded, and we used to, buy $100 skateboarding shoes, and my dad was like, going mental because he's like, you take these $100 shoes, and he's like, and you just grind them, like you just slide them up against sandpaper all day, and you wreck them. And he's like, I'm not buying you anymore. I can't do it. And my brother and I were like, no, we need them. And he's like, listen, you get $60 for shoes. He's like, if you want those shoes, he's like, you can come up with the rest. And then that became the deal for, it didn't matter. We go through 2 or 3 pairs of shoes a year or summer, whatever. He never really complained too much about it, but like $60, he's like, I'm only putting $60 towards it. You guys have to come up with the rest. He's like, so do you really need new shoes, or do you just want the new shoes? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like
a lot of stuff like that.
It's all the value, and so and in case, like, we are kind of keeping on topic because we're talking about once you've learned some valuable lessons, you can still implement those lessons that you think, you know what, that made me to the person that I that's a valuable lesson that I can pass on to my kid. But then there's something that I'm like, yeah, that one, yeah, no, that's kind of sketchy. I'm not doing that one.
No, I agree. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I appreciate the way I was raised.
Me too.
I really do. But on the flip side of it, I can see why I stress about money to the extent that I do.
I could see why I had such a problem speaking my mind, because I was raised where, children are seen and not heard. You respect your elders. You don't talk back, and talking back was considered rude. It doesn't even matter what it was. Like, you could be defending yourself, and it's like, are you who are you talking to? You know what I mean? Like, so
yep.
To unlearn that as an adult, to be like, well, I have to speak my mind, and if something's not right, I have to speak up. So much so that when we were talking about putting yourself out of your comfort zone, when I started doing training and speaking in front of like a class, or your peers, or that was very, very difficult for me. And people don't understand that I'm actually shy. Nobody believes me. Like,
yeah, you're incredibly charismatic and out.
Yeah, but like, nobody believes that I'm shy, right? But I really am. I really am.
I'm in a very similar situation to that too, because I'm quite shy around people that I don't know.
Exactly.
And it takes me a little while to be able to open up.
That's right. That's me. Like, if I know you, oh my gosh, well, then that's like, that's okay. But like, at the beginning, and imagine training strangers. Like, you have a class of maybe 30, 40 little judges that are judging you. Like, that's difficult.
Yeah, that's not easy.
But, you're not going to, we talk about it all the time. Nothing grows in your comfort zone. So if you're not going to put yourself out there, I don't want to have any regrets. So I want to, like, if I will try. And it's not going to be good the first maybe 2, 3, 10, 20 times. I don't know. Like, but eventually you'll get there. And then eventually it becomes like nothing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a similar situation. Like, so I looked up to my dad my entire life. I got into the same line of work as him, worked for the same company as him. He was my direct supervisor. And he's very well known in what he does around Ontario. He's very well known, and he's quite good at his job. So for me, the pressure of being, his shadow and not wanting to let down his legacy made me rise to the occasion and really, really succeed and take my job seriously. But the issue was I spent a very long time looking for his approval, and I didn't realize that until I was much older in life, and realized that, like, oh wait, like, did you work that hard because you wanted him to say good job? Did you, I still, for a long time, I ran a lot of my financial decisions past him, looking, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Should I do this? Should I do this? Looking for that approval or looking for the acceptance. And it took me a long time to realize that, I'm my own person, and I get to make my decisions the way I want to make them. And, he'll love me regardless of what that is.
Well,
So
like I sort of like had the same things, but on opposite spectrums. So my mom was a registered nurse, and I was raised where she would always be like, "You're not getting into nursing. Do not get into nursing." Like she was, even though
yep,
she loved nursing, she didn't until she got into occupational health, she didn't like the hours. She thought it was a tough job, and she didn't
yep,
want that for
definitely.
me. And so, and then my dad on the other spectrum, he was like a manager of the airport. So, like, he loved his job. So I kind of got like, okay, I think that the formula is to pick something that you really enjoy, that it's not work. But then what does that look like? What
What is
does
yeah? Well,
that look like? And for a lot of people, like it took me a long road to even, same as you, bite the bullet. Like I was counseling part-time for years, right? Like when we met, I was part-time doing it. And it's just to well, I'm actually good at this, and I, I want to do this full time. And yeah, it's not, it's scary. It's scary, but you know, you have to believe in yourself, because you're responsible for you. And you can't have somebody like, well, it's nice if you do, but majority of the time you have to be your own cheerleader and go, "Hey, I have to motivate myself to do this, and it's going to work because I'm good at this." And
yeah,
even again, same thing as like you're getting into mortgage, being a mortgage broker. Yeah, at the beginning, you're not going to be that great at it, but that's okay, because eventually you will be.
yeah, and that's something that I don't want to say stressed about, because it's something that I'm getting more and more comfortable with the idea. Um, and this probably comes from being on the top of my game for a very long time in my past career, and being good at what I did. Um, and there's a part about me that doesn't want to fail or whatever, and I'm working through that and understanding that, like, you just got to learn. So
But
now
it's
it's
not, remember, nothing is a failure. If you learn something,
well, that's the
it's
thing
not
is
a failure.
exactly. So, like, my state of mind around it is really starting to shift, and once that starts shifting to a more positive side, a lot of that fear and kind of uncertainty just kind of disappears, because you're just like, hey man, like, you figure it out, and like, if you hate it, you just go do something else.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the end of the world, like, you know what I mean? So right now I'm just, I had a conversation with a very successful mortgage broker in Barrie a couple weeks ago, and she told me to give her a phone call whenever I was done school and I was qualified, and she would help me out. And I'm just gonna hopefully get her to help me find a mentor. And I want, it's weird to say, like, I don't just want I want somebody who's good. Like, I want a mentor, somebody that's gonna help teach
Well,
me,
that's the best way.
and I can, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the environment that I thrive in. So I'm excited for that part, for sure. And it's just gonna be really fun to start learning again for the first time in a long time. So yeah, I think I'm excited. I'm looking forward to what the future may bring.
Okay, we're going to end there because that's a great positive note.
I like it.
Sean said he's excited for what the future will bring.
I know, it's been a long time coming, guys. A long time coming.
We have a breakthrough, and you heard it live. All right. Hang on the phone, Sean. I just remembered something that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.